Hello, Jesse here, and here we are. We're gonna build a transmission from a 1940 UH. This is a reproduction case, unfortunately, because my original transmission was beyond being able to be used. So sometimes you got to do that when you're building on these old bikes, because of the fact that the old transmissions just are wore out, and you can't do nothing about it. You gotta buy new parts for it. So I needed new gears, needed a new case. I got the original top cover yet, which was in good shape, and I needed a new kicker cover. So this one here came with the fourth gear race already installed, which is great, and the bushings here installed in the front here. So all we gotta do is put the studs in the bottom. That's our first step here right now. But this is a good reproduction, because a lot of reproduction transmissions don't have this important piece that's molded into this one right here. This helps align the transmission into the transmission adjustment plate, so it can actually keep from twisting, like going like this and this. Otherwise, it's really hard to keep the stuff straight. So that was a key thing for getting this reproduction one. That, and it has this this hole in it here. This is for the breather. This stopped happening. They stopped putting this breather in about 55, if I remember right. And before 1940, it was out here on the kicker cover. So this all came about in 1940. So this is going to look pretty dang good for my 1940 UH. But anyway, we'll go into more details on a lot of this stuff as we get going. But stay tuned to this segment here on building a 4-speed transmission. Alright, so we're going to start off by putting the studs in. But I guess the whole reason I went with the replica case is because, you know, a lot of these older transmissions, they get wore out over time. Malfunctions with gears cause cases to rupture and explode. Races, they end up wallowing out the aluminum part that they sit into. Kind of like when the gears explode or blow up, or however you want to describe it, it'll take whole sections of the case out and crack it along the side. So I mean, and then you got to repair it, and then repairing can be almost worse than just can also be worse for it, because you end up not getting it straight or repairing it good. And I could have probably went and found a old original transmission that was in pretty good shape, but then the case might have been needed to repair or been repaired, and over the years the gears might have been shot. I needed gears and stuff anyway, so I mean, I went with a nice set of Andrews gears. I will be putting them in. Andrews main shaft and counter shaft. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna put some good gears in it. I also buy like replica and replacement transmissions from like V-Twin and stuff, but who knows what kind of gears them are, if they're good or not, you know? And it's like, so doing it this way myself, I suppose I might spend a little bit extra money than if I would have bought maybe a done transmission, if you can get one. Because they're always on back order or sold out or something everywhere. So anyway, this will be alright, because then I get to pick the gears and the gear ratio and all that stuff that I want. I gotta put all the right stuff in it that needs to be there. Besides, like I said, I have a top cover, the original top cover from 1940. I'll be putting on there. Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of what's going on here. I'm not too worried about it, because I'm going to have hands on it and building it up. I'm going to know it's a good one, and kind of going to have good gears in it, so I'll be able to, like, you know, be rest assured that it'll be alright. So well, stay tuned on this rebuild, or build, or whatever you want to call this. But we'll start off by putting the studs in. Like I said, we're going to Loctite them in, because the reason is on this replica case and all original cases, down inside there where the bolts, the studs come through, it actually pops into the case. On those back there, and these two in the right over here and over there. And then that hole right there is the plug hole. But anyway, these transmissions are real notorious of those coming loose and then leaking and leaving a big old nasty mess underneath the bike. So we're going to be making sure that we seal them up as really good as we can. Because if this is all done right, this thing shouldn't leak that bad or at all. Yeah, so anyways, stay tuned as we work on this. Alright, here we go. We're going to start putting these studs in the bottom of the case. So, yeah, here's the improvised installation tool we made. A couple nuts. It's all you really need. Run one nut in, then lock it to the other nut coming in so it covers all the thread up. So we're going to put a little bit of Loctite on here and then install these. We want to make sure we make a good seal. Like I said before, it's all the way through. So these cases are notorious for leaking at the bottom here. So you just run them in till there's no threads left here. That way with this entire section where it engages to the case, it's gripped by full thread length. And we're going to unlock the...
No, it's slipping.
Is it?
Yes. We got a little bit of left.
Alright, let's zoom in on that. So we're making sure that we got the full thread engaged to the case there.
Looks like we got a little left over. Yeah, see it?
Yeah, there's a little bit left, yeah. There we go. Yeah, now it's flush. And then we'll just look at the inside there. So we can see that it's in all the way there. Then we'll clean this little leakage off right here. And then we'll do the same thing for the next three. So stay tuned here. There we go. We got all 4 studs in now. So we'll keep moving forward on this transmission here. So stay tuned. Alright, so all the studs are in, and that was a colony kit. It's a 4-piece colony kit, 9654-4 colony part number. Nice reproductions of the 34723-47 Harley part number for the 47 and later cases. This is got the oversized ones here, so it's not just 3/8 size hole from like it would have been in 46 and older cases. This actually has a 7/16 hole on one end of the stud, 7/16 stud. Then it necks down to a 3/8 that goes into the adjustment plate. And then we have the special machine style nuts here that have the built-in like washer into it, and they are held on with a flat wash, a parkerized flat washer, lock washer, and then the nut goes on, and then just tighten them down, of course. But otherwise, that kit was 2314-36. That was the transmission mounting kit. That's colony part number. Has the special machined heads. So this is accurate for 1942 and older motorcycles. Otherwise, they would have said 1035 CP in 1943 and later, and then 1038 CP later years also. Like somewhere around the late 40s, like 48 or so. This bolt here is the 5th bolt. It goes on this side here. That holds down to the frame. So there's actual part of the frame that this boss sits on. So anyway, that's kind of like the hardware end of this part here. So we'll go on to start talking about some of the components to this transmission. So stay tuned. Alright, so now we're off to be putting this 4th gear in. This is an Andrews 4th gear. First thing we do is we put on the thrust washer. This acts as a stop. So these rollers we got to put in all individually, all line up against that, and then if there's any sort of thrust, the bearings will push on this piece, because this is a nice hardened piece that won't what do you call it? It won't wear like this gear would. So then next we put this O-ring in that came with this Andrews gear. Now this is a upgrade. This is not a factory Harley designed thing. So what happens here is this O-ring gets put into here, and then this piece comes down, this outer thrust washer and collar, pushes down on that O-ring and pushes it into that groove, which creates a seal. So oil can't seep past here and come to these splines. Now on this old 40s and 50s print here, we don't have the O-ring there shown right between there, and it's not even in this 80s print here. It would be right there. There's no groove in that gear, and that's a gear in the later 60s and 80s, 70s and 80s transmissions. So that was an enhanced option later down the road. So that's it's a good feature, helps sealing. Then we have to put this the seal in here. Now this came about in about 1965 when they decided to put this seal in, which creates a nice seal against the main shaft when it comes through here. So we got the shaft going in to the transmission through here, and then this outer splined area here is where the sprocket sits on and actually turns the rear wheel. So we have power coming in through here, and then power coming out right here on this outer piece. So we'll have to press that on. But for right now, we'll just keep going forward here. Next we put in, we're going to be putting this cork ring in here. It goes in first, all the way in there. I'm not going to quite put it in yet because we're not ready to do this yet, and then the seal goes in like so. All right. Okay. Next we put in this little keeper piece. It goes in this little slotted groove right here on this collar. So then when the sprocket gets put on, sprocket gets slid on over that. This will all be put inside here, of course, and it'll be coming out. But anyway, you'll see all this going on. All right, so from like 1936 all the way to the 80s, mid 80s, the original equipment OEM setup was kind of like this. Right after the sprocket goes the oil slinger, which would help lubricate the chain with whatever oil seeped by. Then we put on the retaining ring and then lock down this this nut here. And then fold them tabs up when it was all tightened up. Now, about sometime in the mid 80s, some people thought up some stuff, and what came out was an item called the super nut, which was this item here, which has an O-ring that goes back here in this grooved area, and it has a built-in seal into this nut. So what happens is you remove the nut, this lock tab, and this oil slinger dust shield thing, and then you just put the O-ring down, and then you run this nut on instead, and you don't use those other parts. So this is what we'll be using for the 40 UH here. So what happens is this seal also seals the main shaft even more, so no oil comes by at all. So yeah, it's pretty much an upgrade. Some people like it. I don't think there's many people who don't like it, but there might be some out there. But for originality and everything, yeah, we would probably need to be going with this stuff. But this is actually an upgrade, and it's hidden behind the primary cover and stuff anyway, so it'll be okay. And I don't want to worry about much leaking. So hopefully this thing, if I do this all right and seal it up right, won't be leaking very much at all. So anyways, stay tuned as we move on to putting this fourth gear in here. So alright, so on to fourth gear. So this thrust washer here goes on first here. I was talking about a little bit ago. It rides up against this gear as well here on this edge. So when it's inside the case, this thrust washer here rides up against this bushing in here. So it kind of falls into this groove like that. Like that. So then it rides along there, and then it rides on this bushing here, this race, and then the bearings I was talking about ride on this race here, and then they push up against this. So it's all sandwiched together kind of like that. It's gonna be kind of hard to see how this go together as soon as I start working on it, but just kind of want to clarify some of this stuff a little bit. But yeah, and here's the edge that it rides on. So we'll put that on. Make sure this is nice and clean, of course. There's like debris on there. Okay, there we go. We got it all cleaned up now. Okay, so then we put the race on. So what we'll do is, I think the best approach with this will be to put lithium grease on here and stack all the bearings along here, except for maybe like one. And then I'll attempt to put this gear in by setting the case on its side like that. And we'll come in like this and push up on it. Then we'll finish up by putting the O-ring on that I showed a little bit ago, and then that collar, outer race and thrust washer collar piece, that's all integrated. So stay tuned here. I'll start working on this. Okay, so we're getting ready to put this fourth gear on. This race here is a standard race. I'm taking it because this came in the case. when I got it. Here's a set of standard bearings we'll be putting in. So by all logic, these standard bearings should just slide right in here and be fine. So if not, well then we'll have to take it apart and possibly hone this. I'm hoping not, because you shouldn't have to. But that's kind of the procedure on putting this together. You put it together, and then you put them all in, and then if the last one goes in easily, then it's good. But if it fights, then we might have to change sizes of bearings. So we're hoping not. So stay tuned here. Okay, so we're greasing up the main fourth gear here. It'll help hold the bearing still, and then the oil the transmission oil that gets put in later will end up dissipating this, and it'll be fine. This will help the bearings hold still so they don't fall over the place while we're trying to put this gear in. So we get 44 of these bearings put in. So stay tuned here. All right. We just set them on there like so. This will take a little while, so stay tuned here and it'll be all ready to go here in a second. All right, so we got a majority of the bearings on. There we go, we hold it there and then we put the rest in.
Yeah. Looks like one more.
There wasn't a gap for another one.
You'd have to get a pick.
Well, I didn't
find
count
it
them,
out.
so. All right, stay tuned while we check this. All right, so we got all of them in there, all 44 of them. So next we put on that O-ring. It's Andrew's gear, I guess that special O-ring.
We're going to put a little grease around that so that way we can always clean it up later.
Now we don't want this O-ring getting cut on anything either, so. All right, it falls into that groove there. Okay, let me put this collar on.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, we don't want this cutting that O-ring either.
There it goes. I felt it go over it.
Good deal.
Okay. Now we have an O-ring in there, and This is all greased and spins kind of snug, but it's the grease doing it.
Good, so the standard bearings work, that's a good deal. So,
Yeah, it has no play. It's perfect.
alright, next we put in the cork ring here.
Okay.
Alright, next we got to put in the seal. I got 2 seals to choose from. We either go with this traditional style one where it has just 1 lip on it, or there was this one here that has 2 lips on it.
Did that come with the Andrews set?
No, this came with gasket set from somewhere else.
Let's open this one up. Okay. The side here that's got the seam is the side that has the spring, like this one. That goes in. So this would go in because this side is solid, so that's out. So this goes in to retain. So it would go this way.
Alright. So stay tuned here while we get ready to hammer this thing in here. Alright, we're putting grease in the lip of the seal there. Make sure that's all done. You only get 1 chance at that. Alright. I got it backwards.
Yeah.
There we go. So I'm just holding the 4th gear so it doesn't fall when he hammers it in.
Make sure it's, yeah, that's high here. Wow.
Alright, stay tuned. There we go. We got the seal in flush here. So now we put in this little angled keeper and line up with that groove. There we go. Now it's a sprocket. Alright, so finishing up the 4th gear here, we want to make sure that we have some end play here. So according to this original manual here, it says install sprocket with flat side outward, install oil deflector, and which we won't put on because we're going to use the super nut, and the sprocket lock washer and the sprocket lock nut, which all takes, super nut takes the place of that, which we saw earlier. Hold sprocket and tighten nut securely, checking main drive gear. But we used the original nut and tightened it down to do this next part here. So anyways, assembly should have from 0.005 inch to 0.014 inch in end play. So we're going to check end play by doing this. We got it set up.
Set on 0.
It's on 0 here. Each one of these little marks is a thousandths, 0.001. And when we do the full squeeze on it, see if it moves, it jumps up to over 5.
Yeah,
So
about
we're
6.
within our window with it torqued and tightened down. So this isn't the sprocket we're going to run, but that doesn't matter for the test. So we're going to use this OEM Harley one here, 22 tooth one, just like stock. So stay tuned here, and we'll start assembling the main shaft. That's next here. We got the super nut on there, and this will have to come back off because we have to slide in the shifter fork assembly through here, and then our counter shaft assembly through here, and then tighten up the cap. But in the meantime, we're ready to move on to putting the main shaft in. And yeah, anyway, so stay tuned here. Alright, so we switched out the sprockets to this OEM Harley Davidson one. But before we go sliding this main shaft in, we want to make sure we put this seal in the end here. So we're going to go ahead and do that now before we move on to the main shaft segment here. There we go. All we do is just line it up and kind of drive it in there. And make sure it's flush.
Up a little over here. There it is.
Alright, there we go. Alright, stay tuned here.